Damn, folks, it's freaking hot. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Comedy Luxembourg's finest metal podcast. We are doing this no matter the heat. Anyway, what else do you want me to do? I mean, metal, music, talk is what we do here. And today, indirectly, we are talking about hot takes. So it kind of fits with the weather, right? By the time I'm recording this, is like 40 plus minus degrees out there and inside anyway. So I thought this would be a good idea. Obviously, there's so many hot takes out there regarding metal music. Some of them kind of true, I get. Some really not true. So, and we will go through some, obviously, now. And maybe in the future, if I find some more hot takes or make up some of my own, maybe we'll get back to this topic. So let's just start with some. I have a list here. For example, many people claim that Metallica's best record was and is Ride the Lightning, right? Yes, I can hear several people yelling and complaining already, but I have to say though, I kind of agree. I was always more like a Ride the Lightning guy compared to Master of Puppets. Obviously, both records are amazing, but I feel like Ride the Lightning is like kind of overshadowed by Master of Puppets. And so I kind of have to agree on that hot take. I'm not sure about you guys. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. But obviously, Metallica has such a vast discography and history that there's so much to talk about. We could only do hot takes about Metallica itself. But then again, I mean, there's another Metallica-related hot take later on in the video, so we'll get to that. Another one I found kind of interesting was Killswitch Engage singers, right? So some claim that Jesse Leach is, compared to Howard Jones, obviously, that Jesse Leach is like the least best of both of them, right? So I totally get it. Howard Jones was my first encounter with Killswitch Engage. That's how I got to get into Killswitch Engage, and Howard has such a unique kind of voice, and I think it was the best fitting voice for what Killswitch did. Then again, Jesse Leach was the OG singer, and he's still there with the band, and sometimes they collab with Howard on some live shows and maybe some songs even. That's what they did in the past already. So yeah, but even on that one, I kind of have to agree. So yeah, let me know what you think, right? And we'll move on. Now this is a quite big one. Judas Priest are better than Black Sabbath. Yes, well, kind of, for me at least, because I grew up with more Priest than Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath was a big name in our household at home. My dad was listening to both of these bands, but Priest had a more rock and roll kind of vibe compared to Sabbath, and I understood Priest a bit faster and got to appreciate it easier compared to Sabbath. But claiming that they are better, like on an international level and like globally seen what both these bands did, I think it would be fair to say that they are both equally important and equally great to the scene and totally. So yeah, I mean, not really agree, but I get it why some people, especially older folks, prefer Priest. I think it was more accessible for the masses. Black Sabbath did a sound that was unheard of before, and strange and kind of evocative and kind of scary, even though they had no clue what they were doing back then, right? So yeah, kind of split on this hot take. But anyway, I mean, I get it why several people claim this to be one of the hot takes. Another one I highly defend, without question. Deathcore is pretty good and does not deserve the hate. Now, I'm a core kid. Obviously, I grew up with the metalcore of the mid-2000s and stuff, and deathcore was coming up back then at the end of the melodic metalcore stuff, right? And deathcore was like the the main big thing in extremeness that came at that time. And honestly, I totally agree. Deathcore is, I will not say underrated, but it does definitely not deserve all the hate it gets. There's definitely bands there that are not as great as they claim to be for deathcore bands. Even on that part, we have another hot take later on in the list. But I mean, there are bands like Oceano, for example, Mental Cruelty. Even though Oceano has like big stuff going on right now, I have no clue if this still exists. But there was quite a big stir earlier this year in the news. But anyway, Banger Records, Mental Cruelty, Zwielicht. That was like, to me, compared to another band that we'll mention. You know what? Let's just mention it straight away. Mental Cruelty compared to Lorna Shore, to me, is freaking better and less, I will not say boring, is the wrong term. It's just more exciting, there's more going on, and it's more diverse. That's just my take, right? So, another big thing I have to absolutely agree on. Nu metal was and is freaking important to the entire scene. And is still part of the metal family. Because without nu metal, there would not be any Deftones. There wouldn't be all those modern metal bands now that are coming up, and big names like Spirit Box, let's say Poppy even is a very good example. Nu metal kind of had its first wave, kind of, and I feel like now the modern metal phase is like the rebirth of some nu metal history, basically. But again, just my take, right? And now for some less interesting thing, at least to me, I never got the band. Honestly, I respect them for what they do and still do. Meshuggah is really not my thing, and I get it why people say Meshuggah is kind of boring. So obviously, it's very technical, it's very challenging listening to, and it's basically mathematicians making like metal music. But to me, it was always very, very, very taxing and very tiring listening to Meshuggah. I don't know. Maybe it was just a thing back then. I have never given like Meshuggah another chance, to be fair. And I know that some people will say, no, you have to listen to obviously Bleed and all these things. Yes, I love that song dearly, but that's about it. I can't listen to a whole record. And I know other people that are like the biggest of Meshuggah fans. So yeah. There you have it. Another take. I need a break. I need something to drink. Podcasting is tiring, you know, especially if you don't know how to do it properly. That's how we do it here. Anyway, we continue. Saint Anger, as I said earlier, has its moments in terms of lyrically, production-wise, and instrumentally. Now, people say Saint Anger is not as bad, lyrically meaning, and that 100% agree. Saint Anger was maybe the biggest announcement the metal world got in the early 2000s when they came back after rehab, after almost breakup of probably the biggest metal band out there, with a new bassist, with a new record. And I think it just got like, there was so much at stake there that for them it was very important to stay true to themselves. Lyrically, musically is a different story. I have to agree. The drums sound, especially the snare, sounds horrible. Even nowadays, it didn't age that well. So I feel if they would like record Saint Anger now, like re-record it, it would make way more sense. It would be probably more detailed, more, I don't know, just more Metallica. I feel Saint Anger was like, it felt like the identity crisis for them. They wanted to scream out their name. They wanted to show them that, again, it's in the name itself, Saint Anger. And but it was not necessarily done in the most accurate way in terms of music. It was obviously merch and promotion and stuff was done at the best. It's still Metallica, right? They have the needs to do it. But it was kind of, it's kind of sad because there was this guy, I forgot his name, also a YouTuber, He re-recorded the Sand Anger album with different drums and kind of different settings and everything, and it sounds amazing. And yeah, so maybe check it out. If I find it, I'll put the link in the description below. So we move on. Zakk Wylde is freaking underrated. That is a freaking fact. This fella has been there for so long, obviously overshadowed again by Randy Rhoads, the OG guitarist of Ozzy Osbourne's band. But Zakk is insane. Zakk is just insane, and he again continued with Ozzy. He is part of Pantera now. He's with Black Label Society. Banger riffs, a freaking solid guitarist. So I don't get it why people kind of keep forgetting this guy, even in some like guitarist lists or whatever. He's usually either very far middle wise or at the end of a list, which I really don't understand. Another hot take: Ozzy is not the greatest singer. Now, as I said earlier, I grew up with Priest, with Halford, and Dio, the band Dio. Obviously, compared to these two singers, the metal god himself and Ronnie James Dio, I kind of have to agree on the fact that Ozzy was probably not the greatest singer, but he is definitely maybe the best frontman of a band ever. True story, right? True. But yeah, Ozzy has this very unique style of portraying vocals, and it somehow never clicked for me. I mean, records like Bark at the Moon or Blizzard of Oz, again, musically extremely, extremely detailed. Zakk is amazing on the guitars, but Ozzy was kind of, he's still the Prince of Darkness, though. We love him dearly, but not the greatest singer. So, just my take. And I said it earlier, Lon Shore is kind of boring. We had that topic. Another one, which, again, is, I have to defend the cause, right? Cradle of Filth is not bad. Cradle of Filth is maybe one of the most important acts for anything extreme metal, and part of the extreme metal history. Without Cradle of Filth, many bands, deathcore bands, especially deathcore bands, with those orchestrations and everything, would not exist. And I feel Cradle of Filth gets so much hate because of what they do, because of Sellout and whatever, because of Danny Filth. Because, yeah, Danny Filth, he's a personality, and he likes to I will not say play around, but it's a whole character. He puts on a show, and he puts it on extremely good. And they definitely don't deserve the hate. At least that's my honest view on that. I grew up with Cradle of Filth very early on, actually. I mean, that was one of the first, let's call it extreme metal records that I bought. Going from classic hard rock or glam metal like Whitesnake. Again, you have Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, Dio, Mike Oldfield. These things were standard things playing in the background in my parents' house, right? So, and then one day I just decided it was time for me to buy my own music, buy my own CDs. I went to a CD shop. I bought 2 records because obviously back then, still in school, no money, no nothing, right? And I bought 2 records just out of the blue. These were Cradle of Filth, Love, Heart and Witchcraft. That was like a compilation of their best songs from Cruelty and the Beast and Dusk and Embrace, Midian. A lot of freaking bangers on there. And Blind Guardian, Nightfall and Middle Earth. So these records really, let's say, shaped me into looking more into the darker, extremer metal direction and go for some sniffing there and see what else I could find in this weird realm of metal extremeness, right? So this band, especially Cradle of Filth, is freaking important to me, and I defend Cradle of Filth whenever I can. If you're a Cradle of Filth hater, sorry, you don't understand anything about metal history and facts. And I think a lot of people will agree on that. Now, another thing, and that indirectly again leads into the Blind Guardian thing, power metal needs way more attention and needs way more appreciation. Back when Guitar Hero was a thing, people knew only one freaking song, Dragon Forces, Through the Fire and the Flames, which is freaking fair. That was and still is a banger song, but there are so many freaking good metal bands, power metal bands out there that deserve so much attention. Twilight Force, Ancient Bards, Rhapsody. Okay, by now Rhapsody is kind of like the oldies in the game, but power metal is just, it's a force of its own. It's a spectrum of its own, and it's a very different mindset compared to, I think, any other metal genre. It's just, you have the entire metal history here, and then you have power metal here. It does its own thing. It's maybe cheesy, it's maybe kind of cringy, but it's okay. It's fair because freaking everything is welcome in power metal, and I think it's fair. So, power metal is good, right? If you need any recommendations for power metal, trust me, I have a few not so well-known bands and obviously some well-known bands that I could recommend. So let me know in the comments what you think. Another thing, and that is like a mix kind of a thing. Female vocalists nowadays only do harsh vocals, and the actual good clean singers get kind of ignored. I mean, I found this hot take on a very well-known metal website, and yes, I get it why people think that. It's true. Bands such as Ginger, Spiritbox, since they came up, the whole movement of female fronted and female vocalists, I feel many of them feel the urge, if they don't know how to do harsh vocals, maybe they will not succeed. But I find it amazing how good of female vocalists we have out there in any genre, honestly. Even here, locally in Luxembourg, we have some freaking good female vocalists. And what I personally prefer is when they can do both. I don't necessarily need only harsh vocals, but like a very well-balanced mix is what usually gets my attention. And so it's kind of a 50-50 kind of thing. Then we have 3 more. Wow, that went kind of fast. But then again, no need to lose hours and hours of things that you and I anyway know, right? So, black metal is cringe. Is it though? It kind of is. The OG black metal movement, the first wave of black metal, was pretty cringe in the sense that they took themselves way too seriously, and they kind of misjudged their impact on several generations. And I kind of have to agree on that. But because of this cringiness, nowadays modern black metal bands kind of grew out of this cringiness and like over seriousness that they kind of portray. So you don't need corpse paint to do good black metal nowadays, basically. I feel that's like the equivalent of black metal is cringy. Corpse paint does not mean that you necessarily can play good black metal. Usually it's the other way around. But hey, another one, glam metal guitarists are the best ones out there. That is a freaking fact. Steve Vai, Joey Satriani, Jason Becker. There's too many to count. Way too many. But glam metal guitarists are insane. And again, because they are usually virtuoso style guitarists, they play a lot of instrumental stuff and very like ear-taxing stuff. So they get kind of ignored by now. Most anyway play in a battle band anyway, where there's a lot of singing and stuff. But I think it's kind of true, even though you don't necessarily have to be a glam metal guitarist to be good, obviously. But let's say Tosin Abasi, for example, if he would play in a metal band, obviously he plays in Animals as Leaders, but I mean, he is like the equivalent of nowadays' glam metal guitarist. Like, it's the same level. Glam metal guitarists took took shredding to the next level, showed it to the other guitarists out there in the different bands and whatever, and they got inspired and learned from that and tried to evolve the whole playing of guitar and understanding of how a guitar works, and took it to the next level. Yngwie Malmsteen, for example, another great example. And then there was like this gap, and obviously since glam metal and the late 80s and early 90s had its fair share of very good glam metal guitarists, and then nowadays, and that leads into the next hot take actually, you go towards the prog guitarists, who are the nerds and the absolute bests by now. Again, Tosin Abasi, Ravier from Animal Leaders as well. You have Ichika Nito, for example. It's not necessarily as metal as you might say, but these guys take the instrument and just understand it and want to craft instruments and bring metal or rock or whatever to the next level. And with that, the whole scene kind of evolves and grows, right? Otherwise, Polyphia would not be here. And Tom Hansen is another great example for that. And last but definitely not least, another fact that kind of is true indirectly again to the new metal scene related. Nickelback don't deserve all the hate. Agreed. Freaking agreed. I mean, I'm gonna be very honest here. I was never the biggest Nickelback fan. Obviously, the singles back then, very, very good, very like mass friendly, very sellout kind of thing. But that's Nickelback. They came with that wave, so it's fine, right? But now I had to go back. Not only because of the hot take, but I went back like several times and tried to listen to a few records, and I was like, damn, it's not as bad as people say. So I kind of was misjudging them myself as well. And I think with that said, I think we should all just try and revisit Nickelback, because even though it's like alternative metal and kind of new metal-ish wave kind of thing, it has its fair freaking moments of very, very good writing in terms of music and lyrically. But, I mean, who cares about how they look like or if they are weird or whatever? The music is the key, right? And yeah, some records are fucking good, right? So agreed. Nickelback don't deserve the hate. That's my take. Another one, and that's some that you might probably say is kind of true. We here in Comedy talk a lot of thrash. I mean, we knew that from the beginning, right? And that was kind of the idea of this whole thing. It just evolved in a way that we thought never possible. So these were my hot takes I found on the internet. And let's see if we might do this again in the near future. Hot takes evolve because the whole metal scene evolves, right? And with that said, I wish you a pleasant evening, day, night, whatever. And we see each other very soon. Cheers.